Welcome back to the Think Freight podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a familiar face. We've got the legendary Cahill. We've got Kevin Hill from now CarrierSource. Kevin, how's it going, man?
It's going great. It's a great month of July, and I like summer, so everything's good.
Heck yeah, summers in Texas. They're hot, but they're wonderful.
They are. They are. It's been a really cool summer up here. I don't know about down in Houston or not, but we don't have these endless days of triple-digit weather, right? It's just like 90 to 95, low humidity. It feels great.
Man, I wish I could say the same for Houston. It's been very high 90s into the triple digits and extremely high humidity, which is just it's fun. It's a great time. But I still love summer. I can't even though it's been hot, I can't get enough of summer.
That's what swimming pools are made for.
Exactly. But hey, you're with CarrierSource now. Last time you were just doing your own thing with Brush Pass. You're still doing that, but you've added another title with CarrierSource. How's that transition been so far?
It's been great. I've known Rob and the crew over there for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
We've been talking back and forth, right? Talking about carrier sourcing and ratings and reviews. And at the Broker Carrier Summit up in Indianapolis, he showed me the shipper intent data, the data of shippers searching for carriers and capacity.
Yeah.
And he sold me on the spot. I was like, can I come sell for you? Uh, it's the best business development tool, lead generation tool I've seen in brokerage and forever, probably.
Well, it's interesting because I think that there are a lot of segues to what CarrierSource does and also what Brush Pass does, but for tech companies. So, I think that's when Quera and Rob told me that you were joining. I saw immediately. I was like, oh yeah, this is a great addition to the team because Kevin's going to come in and already have that kind of understanding as to what CarrierSource needs and how to sell this to brokerages. And for people who may not know yet, what is CarrierSource? Like I know, like Rob's been on a couple of times, but for maybe some of the new listeners who don't want to go back and listen to those kind of episodes and listen to Rob and I kind of rant about the Chicago Bulls of the past, what's CarrierSource in a nutshell? TMS.ai is the next generation transportation management system from Rose Rocket, one of the most awarded and respected logistics tech companies in North America. Unlike legacy TMS software, TMS.ai is AI native from day one. It's built to help enterprise logistics companies scale without hiring, streamline operations, and automate complex processes from dispatch to invoicing to pricing strategy. With a modular design, TMS.ai lets you build what you need now and add more when the market rebounds. No overcommitment, no bloated contracts, just speed, flexibility, and real ROI. Check out roserocket.com or tms.ai to get started. Looking for a freight specific CRM? Sales CRM is built exclusively for freight brokers and freight agents. Manage shipper sales prospecting, track your carriers, and monitor the lanes they run, all in one powerful platform, and all for one extremely affordable price. Try Sales Dash free for 14 days with no credit card required. Visit sales-crm.com today.
It's a ratings and review platform for carriers, right? So you got the
Yeah,
freight guard reports, you got a lot of tools for negative reviews, very few for positive reviews. So
right.
every company in the FMCSA, trucking and brokers that have their own profile page that they can go in and claim and kind of build their online presence, right?
Yeah,
Gather reviews from different parties in the transaction, be able to present that really as social proof, kind of like Rob says this whole time, that Yelp for transportation, right?
yeah,
It's hard to differentiate yourself in this space, whether you're a broker or a carrier. So having rave reviews is a good way to have that social proof saying, yes, we are not only are we a good carrier, we perform well. Our customers love us, right? So this is
right.
very important. And over time, over the last 4.5 years, I've built it up. 75,000 reviews up there. anyone can go in, claim their page, kind of improve upon that, and start collecting reviews. But typically, about 400,000 visitors a month visit one of the pages on CarrierSource, and oftentimes that's by brokerages, carrier salespeople looking for carriers, but more often than not, or more than they thought at the time, shippers are coming in and searching, doing, you know, either they need a load move now, or they're doing research on projects, new lanes, RFPs, and being able to capture that data it has been important.
Yeah, I had talked to Rob about something similar probably back when they had first started building this or first started to like get this in their network. Because I remember Rob and I talking on the last podcast, probably September or October of last year, when they were just getting into how many shippers were actually visiting the CarrierSource site per month, and it was a staggering number then, and I'm sure now with kind of the current trends and current market, it's probably exacerbated that. Like I think that I saw a post that you made. I think it was either yesterday or the day before, but I think it was about port search activity really heating up, and that really goes to especially outside of the top 5 ports. So that really goes to show that carrier or shippers are really looking for this data and also or this information, but also brokerages are too. And this is a really good way to kind of get yourself found, but also, and the other turn is to kind of have this data to see who's looking for what and where.
Yeah, sales is oftentimes about luck and race, right? And there's no better way to be lucky than being at the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
And if you know what a shipper is searching for, and you're able to pick up the phone or shoot off an email and kind of tailor your pitch around what they're looking for without being a stalker, um, the conversation, the quality of calls, the quality of conversations compared to the number of outreaches that you do, I mean, it's just that ratio is a game changer.
Who's kind of your typical CarrierSource user? I know we had you had mentioned reviews for carriers and for brokerages, but who is the typical person on a day to day that is utilizing CarrierSource? Is it mostly brokers, mostly carriers, or is it shippers on the site looking for these carriers and brokers?
Yeah, so on the carrier sales function of it, you have mostly brokerages, right,
Okay.
and a lot of shippers. So that we have about 13,000 unique shippers a month on
Wow.
average on the website, and those are the ones we can identify. We're rolling in new technology to be able to identify more of the user base, but just what we can identify is about 13,000, thirteen
Wow.
thousand unique shippers on at least once conducting a search for carriers, right? And carrier sales teams use it to source carriers to book loads. Um, trucking companies use it to be there, right? Not necessarily to search anything on the website or be an active user like that, but they are the target of everybody. Everybody's looking to find great carriers, and it's a perfect platform for carriers to increase their branding, increase their awareness, gather reviews, and be seen.
Now, if I'm a carrier sales rep, how can this tool help me source carriers maybe that I maybe don't have a network or that I didn't know before? Like, what is kind of that overall or overarching like function? How does that like how if I was a carrier sales rep today, how could I use carrier source, I guess, to make better decisions and find kind of those carriers that I'm looking for?
Yeah, so search lanes, right? Yeah, you want to, Dallas to Houston. Say you're working Dallas to Houston lane, you want to find carriers that have a presence in Dallas or Houston or been reviewed on a Dallas to Houston lane, and you can target that. Pick out your equipment type: drive-in, reefer, flatbed, hot shot, sprinter van, all kinds of different equipment types, and then a few other parameters about insurance and how long they've been active and fleet size. So really everything you need to source carriers, and then you get to the click profile pro page. And one of the great things that you can do with carrier source is look at the reviews. look at the good reviews, and it's about 85% positive reviews on that. But you can, if the carrier's got 6 or 7 reviews, you can check that out, see what lanes are doing, see what others are saying about them, and it helps you in that, like, that first stage of vetting, right?
Yeah.
Vetting before you get to compliance and onboarding.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that, I had actually had someone reach out to me a couple days ago and like, hey, do you know anyone in, I think it was like North Carolina that does reefer freight? And I was like, I don't, but I was like, I searched on CarrierSource real quick and I sent them over the link. I said, here's some carriers that do haul some reefer freight. I said, you can check these out. And, I don't know them, but, they may have reviews. They may not if they're connected in CarrierSource. So at least check them out and see, and they were like, "Oh wow, this is great." And I think they're a CarrierSource user as well, so it makes a lot of sense to be able to share this this info and this data because it's just another source, another source of truth to be able to say, okay, they run this pretty enough to be able to say they're actively getting reviews, they're updating this page, so they're probably still running this Texas to Texas lane. So it can be, kind of one of those other tools in your belt to really be able to source carriers, but also now with the data to be able to look at shippers and be able to source those as well.
Yeah, and to look up carriers, right? To use the website is completely free. Right?
Yeah,
So it's a nice free resource that anyone can log in and use, and that's how we get both the carrier sales teams and also the shippers coming in, searching on Google for what they need.
right.
More shippers are searching on Google than you would ever expect. So you do that Google search as a shipper, and CarrierSource is going to show up in the top 3 results of most every search that you do off Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo, whatever your browser is,
Yeah.
and or search engine, and you're going to click on CarrierSource, and there you are. You're within the site, and you can start searching away.
So let's dive into some more shipper intent data because I think that's the real like meat and potatoes of today's episode. Um, what for maybe some of the people who haven't maybe heard this term intent data before, what the heck is shipper intent data? What is intent data, and how does this stuff work?
Yeah, so traditionally, right, a lead is a contact. It's a
Right.
record. It's a phone number. It's an email. It's a qualified lead is someone who ships,
Mm,
and that's about all you know. You might know a little bit about their network, but you don't know what their current needs are.
right.
Intent data is basically shippers actively searching for capacity or carriers in certain areas, certain lanes, certain equipment type, right? If a search was conducted while we're talking right here, that would be intent. They have intent to
Mm,
do something, right? They have intent that they need a carrier or a load moved right now. It could be tomorrow. It could be a project that's coming up in a couple of months. It could be in for the annual RFP cycle, right? And it shows intent, and be able to read into the intent by the activity and frequency is something that you start putting the clues together, but there's an immediate top of mind, front of mind type of action taken.
yeah. So essentially, you guys are finding out like the the shippers, I guess, like online behavioral kind of like information that shows that they are looking for this specific lane or this specific type of trailer that they're looking for, or even in some other cases where it might be, hey, maybe they're looking to completely remove brokerages from their pool in 5 years because they're going to create a whole set of trailer pools and things like that themselves, right? You can kind of look at all these data points and say, hey, are our shippers looking for other suppliers in these lanes? It can also kind of be utilized in that way too, right? Maybe as a
Yeah,
strategic point where, oh man, maybe we need to tighten up in these areas because it looks like our customer XYZ is actually maybe looking to cut us out.
it could be. Get all kinds of great data points,
Yeah.
and we're sitting here building AI tools to be able to interpret that, using their search data
Mm,
to to kind of complement and enrich the data to find out exactly what they're trying to do. But yeah, I mean, if you're a shipper and you're on CarrierSource looking for dry vans between Texas or between Houston and Dallas, you're not doing that on your lunch hour to pass the time. You're not.
right.
It is true intent, right? You're truly looking to solve some issue with capacity, right? Now, the time frame of that and kind of lanes in there. But yeah, if you're searching Dallas to Houston dry vans, there is something. So it might be a new lane, it might be something that you don't operate, and you have a new customer. I'm in Dallas, you're in Houston. I get a new customer in Houston. Maybe it's 3 loads a week, maybe it's five, maybe it's 20, maybe it's one. And I need to set up a new carrier partnership or transportation partnership, right,
Right.
to handle something. And, you know, most shippers with any type of volume, they have carriers, right? They have a waterfall, they have a routing guide, they have carriers and brokerages on there, and they're always looking for good solutions.
I can imagine when you're in, your sales process, Kevin, and this is kind of peeling back the onion a little bit, you probably get some pushback on saying, why don't I just utilize Zoom Info? We're already paying for Zoom Info to get data, to
Mhm.
get info, to get all this. Why should I not just utilize Zoom Info's intent data?
So it goes back to the old style leads and the new style leads, and Zoom Info does that. They do sell their intent packages, but
Yeah,
it's like third or fourth or fifth party. It's very broad intent of
interesting.
keywords and maybe what websites they're viewing, things like that. Like the real nitty gritty work task of finding carriers, they don't have, because you need a website that you can source carriers to do that. And
Yeah,
there's only one that exists, and that is CarrierSource, right? And that is out there free to the public to use, right? And and that's one of the big reasons. But yeah, going back to the traditional, it's kind of complementary as well, right? Because we don't know exactly who made that search of the company. We do reverse
right,
IP lookups, but we know where that search happened, that location. So if the company's based in Dallas and the search is made in Dallas, then that's when you go to Zoom Info to find the likely contacts of that. And you don't necessarily need to know who's actually making the search, because we
right.
all know, you know, the decision maker might not be making the search, right?
Yep,
The dispatcher or the transportation or logistics junior officer
exactly.
could be making that, right, at the direction of the director, right? And if it's, you know, multiple loads, the director is going to know about it, but the manual tasks can be carried out by somebody else.
Yeah, so you could really hit this direction. You could end up hitting, whether or not you're targeting the lower level people to kind of get those lower champions and say, hey, we
Mhm.
can do this for you. Let's, kind of bring this up to the top. Or you can also hit the top as well and say, hey, we have this capacity here. This is how we service these things, blah, blah, blah. And you may be able to get in, whether that's on the lower level or up on the upper level, because hey, from a standpoint, they're looking for these kind of moves, these kind of carriers, these kind of brokers that can handle this. So it makes a lot of sense. And I think, going back to the Zoom Info point, you guys have 13,000 unique shippers per month that are hitting the site. Zoom Info, like you said, it's third, fourth, fifth party data, and they're not necessarily, looking directly at transportation and saying, these are the sales signals that intent, that they're looking for carriers in these kind of markets. So it's not as, I think, as niche data as what you guys are providing. It's really that closer data, and it's also that more unique data directly towards what shipper sales teams are looking for.
Brooke describes it very well as, you know, Zoom Info, other intent data. It's very top of the funnel, right? It's
Yeah,
just a big wide net. CarrierSource has data that is very bottom of the funnel. is actionable today. Right? It is whether the load's moving today or not. The decision making process is you're in the middle of it. Right? If you're searching for carriers, say connected Dallas to Houston, right? That could be for a new customer that might not go in line for 2 months, but you're making your decisions today about that, right? You're making your selections right now,
Yeah.
and there's no better time to be at the right place at the right time, and you're finding loads before they're on load boards, before they're in a TMS, before anything, when they're a germ of an idea almost. And that front running of the market, it is very appealing to me as well.
I think that's so. I think what's so interesting is just how you really can use this, like you said, for kind of that bottom of the funnel, because it takes a lot of time to move top of funnel leads, to that bottom of the funnel. And if you can kind of, I don't want to say skip a few steps, but if you can know that, hey, these Nike is looking for this in this particular area, and we already service Nike, or hey, we've been trying to get in. This may be the right angle for us to be able to get in with the shipper. It makes a lot of sense to be able to say, hey, this is strictly unique data for us, as opposed to this fifth party data that Zoom
Yeah.
Info has that isn't as is in depth. I want to ask you, so if Kevin, if you were a brokerage manager today, you were starting a brokerage today, how are you utilizing CarrierSource's data or your intel kind of in your day to day, right? Like, how are you looking at this every day to kind of, I guess, manage your go to market, but also to say, hey, how can we manage our top and bottom of funnel at the same time with this data?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an integration into my TMS and my
Mm,
Slack or Teams, whatever I use. I'm going to do both of those. Very
yeah,
simple procedures to do. Usually takes a few minutes on either. And what I'm going to do, because you get real time intent signals. So I'm going to set up a
that's cool.
couple really hot targets that are, whether I do oversize or reefer, and I'm going to get the things I really, my niche, right? What I specialize in. I'm going to set up other targets for different ICPs or profiles and to distribute around. And we're going to work those, right? We're going to send emails and phone calls whenever those come in, and be more productive. If I have 3 salespeople or 5, making those salespeople much more productive is, I think, a better operation or a better strategy, I should say,
Right.
than trying to hire more bodies to make more sales. I think you see that fail quite often, right? Is
Yeah.
is hiring more people, often new to the industry. Um, it takes months to get them up to speed. It's much better to be productive with what you have. So the days of 100 phone calls, banging away the phone on Zoom info leads, it is kind of a thing of the past, and it's more quality of calls. Being able to have the research at hand, knowing the needs, you're calling the people that are searching right now, and that's how I'm working that. I'm working that brokerage.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? You're not going for so many pray and spray kind of 150 call a day. You're going with more of that 20 to 25 really personalized, whether that's emails or cold calls or LinkedIn or video messages or
Mm-hmm.
whatever your multi-threaded approach is. You're really kind of changing what you're doing, and not going with the big box brand of saying, hey, pray and spray 150 calls a day and go land some shippers. It's really just being a lot more targeted and being a lot more focused on who you're going after.
And when you're focused, so there's a lead on the board that we have. Last 30 days, they've been on the website 15 times, 20 times, right? It's
Yeah.
a lot of times, a lot of activity. They do oversized, open deck. They're working on that. It's based out of Houston. The company's based out of Houston, industrial construction.
Mm,
They have oversized loads coming down from the Midwest to the Rust Belt, still Chicago, Newark, Canton, down to around Cape Canaveral,
okay.
right? It's a project. It's a huge project.
Yep.
That it's going to have a lot of truckloads, oversized truckloads coming down. You see stuff out of Houston to Panama City, Florida. They're probably building a condo, right? A lot of truckloads going. They're exporting some stuff, though. They're going down to the port, right? So it's
Yep.
either export or refinery type of rehab work, right? I mean, you just know it.
Yep.
So instead of just having a logo that you're like, oh yeah, this company ships, and I'm going to get in front of them, I'm going to spend all this time and resources to do that, and you're kind of doing that blindly.
Yep.
You have a lot of information about this company, about what they're doing right now, about what projects they're going to have in the future, and that justifies the time to put in the effort and the resources to get in front of them because it just looks gravy. It looks like a customer you really want to have.
Well, it's one of those situations, Kevin, right, where you don't want to spin your wheels. If I'm, the sales rep and I'm saying I ship a ton of dry van freight and I'm going to go after this customer, and then, I finally 6 weeks into the sales process or 5 weeks into the sales process get someone on the phone and they're like, "Yeah, we actually are having some issues. We ship a lot of overdimensional, overweight freight and on open deck," and I'm like, "Oh, fantastic. I'll quote it, but like I don't really handle that
Yeah.
freight typically. So I'm going to be probably 10, 20, 30% higher because I don't know the model. I may end up, if I win the business, I'm probably going to mess something up if I don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, you may have either wasted time, money, resources, or whatever it may be to say, yes, we can handle it, but we don't specialize in this, right? If we specialize in dry van, we want to be able to go after that dry van. And if I specialize in overweight open deck freight, I want to be able to go after that specific person, that shipper that you just mentioned, Kevin.
Yep. I wanted some key lanes so I can put together kind of your distribution model, especially on dry van freight. I want to see what's reoccurring, what's not reoccurring. Um, and if you're out looking for carriers, we go to the annual RFP, right?
Yep.
If you're a shipper, right, and you're on CarrierSource looking for new partners on your RFP, you're going to be searching where you're the weakest, right? Because
Yep.
where you're the strongest, you already got everything lined up, right? Where you're the weakest, so you see the weak points, right? You see the weak points because you don't have that carrier network or that transfer, that brokerage network already in place. You're creating it, and that's a lot of hard work, right? And it's kind of the first phase where you know a lot of shippers will go in, do their due diligence, do their research. The day to day is still outsourced to good key carrier partners
Yep.
and a limited number of brokerages you know, that know the business, know how to make those moves.
Kevin, you made another post, and I want to read this to the audience because I think it was really interesting on kind of the data you guys have, and it was the one you made 3 days ago, and it says shipper capacity searches were up 18% week over week as everyone got back to the office for a normal week after the 4th of July. With that said, searches were down 17% compared to the second week of June. San Antonio jumped into the top 5 for unfortunate reasons. So you can really see just in the data right away how quickly the markets in San Antonio, because of the devastating floods, and even in Dallas, were
Mm-hmm.
immediately jumped to number one and number four, respectively, in the shipper searches because there was so much freight coming out of both Dallas and the need for capacity and help in San Antonio. It really goes to show how quickly you guys are showing that data and how quickly those carrier searches and capacity searches are showing up right in that intent data for people to be able to look at.
Yeah, I mean the intent is right there. There's immediate need. People are going to
Yep.
be online searching for that. It'll be interesting because this is a young data set. Be interesting to see, longer term trends in a lot of ways. Going back to our previous lives at FreightWaves and looking at
Yep.
OTBI and OTRI, I think it will line up quite nicely. But I think it might front run those.
Yeah.
I mean, because these loads a lot of these loads aren't in existence yet. They're on
Mm.
paper, but they will
Yep.
be in a couple of months, right? If you have a $100 million project, construction project that you need materials for, you're lining up carriers well in advance. You're lining up partners well in advance
Yeah.
of having to ship the first loads.
No, you're spot on. It's not, when you've got these bigger projects and things like that, you're not waiting until 3 days before it starts to start lining up partners and all that. You've started that process 6, 7 months ago when you started to bid to sell the goods before they were even moved to see, hey, does this make sense with transportation and everything else? So it's yeah, you have to kind of get in there well ahead of time to be able to kind of help them understand. But also you can also, to that other point, is when carriers do drop the ball, or partners drop the ball, they are going to be immediately, hey, where's other capacity here? How can
Yep.
we find these other partners to maybe these two partners that we had for this aren't good, so maybe we need to have a couple other lined up. So you can also look at, say, hey, maybe we can help on some of this project stuff that wasn't necessarily something that we were going to be able to even get in on.
Yeah, I mean, any scenario you want to come up with,
Yep,
it's probably
it helped.
reflected in the data somewhere,
Yep,
right? I mean, because we know how
it's
logistics goes, right? That's not an uncommon thing to start a
exactly.
project and not be, maybe they fall off, maybe their service levels aren't great, but maybe they just don't have the capacity right then and there either, right? If it's lined up,
Exactly.
that happens all the time too. Um, and then construction projects and others, it's stop and stop. Everything gets delayed, and then
Yeah.
it's all a living, breathing uh, a project, right?
Yeah.
That has its own pitfalls outside of transportation that gets affected by it with the bullet effect almost, right?
Kevin, I want to ask, it's so tough, I feel like, for salespeople in 2025, especially maybe for salespeople who are newer, who haven't been in the industry as long, to balance utilizing intent data tools and AI tools for like still building a real relationship, right? How tough, like how can you in 2025, if you were selling as a carrier salesperson or a shipper salesperson, how can you balance utilizing these kind of tools while also still going out there and kind of building those real relationships, to win some of that business as well?
I think we're setting this up to have that relationship base, but having the research and the data to really make great relationships, make it
Yeah.
easier on the human. And number
Mhm.
one, being in the right place at the right time. Number two is, and I've been playing around with this, and Rob has, having AI research tool that
Right.
takes the lane history information of searches on CarrierSource and puts that into all the other knowledge that AI draws from, and getting
Mhm.
really good bullet point and tables spit out that might take you, it takes a few seconds to actually do, and then maybe take a minute or two to read over and have a really good understanding of how to ask great questions on the call. Right? It's all about asking great questions
Yep.
anyway, but really having a great understanding. And every time I do the research with AI, and it will give me the reasonings of why it has this, I'm like, you know what? I agree with that reasoning, whether it's right or not. It's good reasoning behind it, and it's research that it would take me 4, 6, 8 hours to do. And it's there at my fingertips. So
Yep.
if I'm calling people that I know are in the market, have great research behind it, I can have much better calls, fewer calls, much better. And it just increases my odds of good things happening.
Kevin, I wanna ask you before we kind of wrap up here. CareerSource has been, I guess, kind of leading the charge. I want to say, and kind of changing, kind of, I want to say, the narrative around carrier reviews, and also how shippers can be contacted now. Because this intent data is really, it really helps you go back to your last point. My last question is, it really does, I think, help you build some of those real relationships, because you can utilize this to kind of say, hey, I already do this, so why don't I help you, XYZ shipper, do this more effectively, instead of me, like I said, going back and forth and saying, hey, I only ship dry van, this OD stuff it's not gonna fly for me, I don't know it. So it's like you can really build those relationships, and also not spend as much time on some of those maybe relationships that you thought you wanted to build that maybe aren't going to be the ones you need for your business. So with that being said, what is maybe the next idea or product that CarrierSource may be looking towards, or is already out there, or some of you guys are looking to improve upon, if you can give away any secrets?
Yeah, I think, everyone's talking about AI, and we're using AI to really enrich our data. And I
Yeah.
think Rob said it very well the other day, and I totally agree, is the moat with AI is the data. If you have
Mm,
great data and you
yep.
employ AI to really analyze it and harness it for the user experience, whether you're a carrier, shipper, or broker, um, that's where the real value is, and that's what we're doing to enrich our data, make it more accessible, to be able to analyze more of it and make it more useful, useful to the end user and easier to collect, easier to collect the data, easier to digest the data, easier to analyze the data,
Yeah.
and I think that's what we're focused on right now.
I want to ask you a couple really like fun, kind of quick hit questions before we wrap up. Are you more of a coffee, energy drink, or something else to help power through those afternoon calls?
I am a coffee person. I'm a
Black,
coffee with milk.
coffee with milk.
With
Are you
milk.
regular milk, or do you do like plant-based alternatives, soy, anything like that?
I like whole milk. I like whole
Nice.
milk in my coffee. I don't drink whole milk any other way, but in my coffee, the heavier the cream, the better in coffee.
I love it. What's your favorite road trip or truck stop snack?
I just say beef jerky. I'm
Ooh,
a
nice.
connoisseur of beef jerky, and I like the F brand,
Yeah,
or the local brand, I should
the
say,
local
not the F
brands.
brand, but local brands. I like to try those out.
What's one app you cannot live without that is not work related?
Weather. I'm always on my
Ooh,
weather app for whatever reason. Especially,
hey,
I guess spring in Texas, you have to be on your weather
have to
app.
be on the weather app.
You do, but I love the weather. I've gotten into like YouTube weather chasers as well,
Do you
and
do you
it's
watch any
just
of the
fascinating.
like the weather guys like Ryan Hall or Max Velocity or any of those
Max
guys?
velocity.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
Max
I
Velocity.
do. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
And
I watch him. I watch him when he's on, even if even if they're watching stuff like in the Midwest, and I'm nothing going on in Texas. I've got him on the background pretty much all the time.
I do too. It's just fun. I like the graphs and the charts and stats and everything, and it's just fun. I
It
like the
is.
weather anyway. I like storms.
Me too. I think they're super interesting, and I love just kind of learning all about the different, I guess, ins and outs of weather that I never knew about or like understood 10, 15 years ago, and now I'm like,
Yeah,
oh wow, like now I understand like how tornadoes form, or like when you're looking at radar, you can really see like the different like how hook echoes form and how like where the tornadoes are and things like that. It's really
hmm
interesting, really very fascinating. Glad to hear that you like that too.
yeah. It's strange that the tornado sirens or weather sirens will go off here, and
Right.
it's like the Stone Age. I'm like, well, I'm
Yeah.
sitting here watching this. I know exactly what's going on. I can get down to street level
Right.
with radars and technology today, and they're blaring horns just because it's in this huge county.
Yep, exactly. Kevin,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming back on the show, talking about shipper intent data. I think it's really cool what you guys are doing. Where can listeners connect with you, or if they want to learn more about shipper intent data from CarrierSource?
Check me out on LinkedIn. I'm always posting about it. You can always DM me. That is probably the easiest way, to be honest. Or you can shoot me an email, khill@carriersource.com. Or no, I'm sorry, I can't even get my email right. khill@carriersource.io.
There we go. Make sure you guys check out Kevin and CarrierSource. We'll have all the links in the description or in the comments of the podcast. If you guys like today's show, make sure you give it a like and review. Helps us out a ton. And don't forget, we do drop 3 weekly newsletters at thinkfreight.io Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And don't forget to think freight.